Hey everyone, it's been a while since I've made a video, but I have great news to share. I finally finished the 1 to 1000 Sol trading challenge. Took me around 5 months actually to complete it, and it's also a goal that I set for myself, which was, in my opinion, very difficult to achieve, and I thought I probably wasn't gonna achieve it, but if I came a little bit close then it would already be very nice. But I did actually manage to achieve it, so that's such an amazing thing that happened. And for this video I actually want to go over what I did to achieve this and my process and how everything went as a means of reflection, and maybe you can also learn something from it. So let's dive into it. So I started, whether I can basically go all the way back because I posted everything that happened. So I started around March, I think, so the 22nd of February, and I started with 1 Sol. And at this point I can remember that I did have a strategy. So after doing some analysis for 2 months and trying to trade the markets, I found one specific strategy that worked very well. I've been trading for quite some time already, and I know what kind of things just work and which kind of things don't really work in the crypto market. So initially I just tried everything that I know to gain some advantage. Try day trading, tried swing trading, and quickly I realized that one of the strategies that I was actually using a lot didn't work at all, and that has to do with consolidation patterns. Let's see if I can find one. But it looks like this. It's just a triangle, as they would call it in trading chart patterns, and I would trade this pattern a lot, but somehow this pattern didn't really perform well in the meme coin market. Usually when they break up like this, they tend to go back down again. So first I lost money trying to do this, and at some point I just stopped and I looked at something else, which is referred to as supply demand zones. So I've also been trading that a lot in the crypto space, especially in 2021. I did a lot of demand zone trading, and it just implies looking at these small areas just before you see a very large surge. And these zones actually tend to perform very well. So if I would mark this area, you can already see here that the coin went all the way back down after this pump, and then here it found some support and then continued to trade back up. So I was observing this a lot, and then I was trying to trade it on the different time frames, and what kind of zones were good, because there's many different types I learned in those 2 months, and just to try to become an expert on this specific setup so I can learn more of the nuances that are involved when trading this. And then on the 22nd of February, so when I decided that, okay, I have a decent strategy, I think I want to aim for something huge, something big. And then I basically started this challenge to make 1000 Sol from just 1 Sol. And even at that point, I did already had quite some knowledge about how these zones work. It was still a little bit fake in the beginning. I knew that I had to buy somewhere here, but I didn't really know what the behavior was when they come at the zone. Yeah, I know it's gonna go up, but sometimes, the behavior was different. Sometimes it went up right away, and sometimes it took some time. So I really learned about the patterns price was making there. So you could see something like this, or maybe something like this. And sometimes there were negative signals, like something like this is not really good, because then, for example, it went lower usually. So I learned a lot about these kind of nuances, when to stay out, when to continue. And also learned about which coins to select. So it's not just about trading these demand zones, but also about where are you trading them on. Because then I got scammed a few times. I tried to buy a demand zone on a token that was basically going to zero because the developer was selling or whatever. And then I also learned that it's not just about getting nice zones, but also, make sure that what you're trading is actually valid. And that was actually a very difficult part, because sometimes you don't even know exactly if it's valid, especially when you go to the new pairs, which is something that I mainly traded in the beginning of the challenge, because this is like the part where the most volume is and the most volatility. And for smaller investments, then that's usually where you want to be at. So not all these actually survive I do have some filters on right now, but if I would remove those filters, for example, and you go a little bit to coins that have released for quite a while already, you can see that, most of them just die. So of course, now I know that it doesn't really make a lot of sense to buy this here, although it's a very good demand zone. But there's a nuance to it, and that's that it's at 5k market cap, and that basically means it's already dead, so there's no point in trading this. And so there's a lot of nuances that I just learned. And if I compare, for example, my results to, the beginning, where I didn't know about all these kind of small differences, I just traded everything, and compared to now, you can see that maybe my win rate back then was maybe 60 to 70%. And if I would trade it right now, it would be like 90% plus. Like I could even get like 100% or maybe 99% even if I go for only like the perfect setups. So that is a huge difference. Something which I thought was basically not achievable, but it actually is. Just because, first of all, I picked a strategy. I tested several strategies and I picked the one that had the most potential. And then I started just only focusing on that specific setup. So I could, find out everything about that specific setup and exclude potentially losing setups. That's basically it. And I think it took me like 3 months before I reached that level of excellence, I think, in that specific setup. I do think that is essential if you want to make so much money and be so consistent. You really have to stick to that one specific setup and master it, basically. So it didn't really go smooth for me also. If you would follow the entire journey, you'll see that multiple times I had like decent setbacks. Let's see if I can find one here. I also made a tweet about it, so you can see the graph actually. But there was, I think, one time when here, for example, so at some point I said to myself, okay, I'm going all in Boden, because Boden was at that time one of the best performing meme coins, and it went down for quite a bit. Like there was this meme coin pullback. All meme coins went lower for quite a bit, and Solana also crashed. And at that point, I was very confident because this was like this daily demand zone and price was touching it for the first time, which is very significant for me. And I took the trade and I basically wanted it to go to here, because if I took it around here and if it went there, I would have basically completed the challenge. It would be 100%. And at that time, what I didn't realize, for example, is that, of course, I'm doing this challenge in Sol. And what I kind of got to realize is that this is a USDT chart, and if Sol would go up, then Boden would go up as well. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to make 100% in Sol. It's going to be quite a bit less, maybe like 30%. So that is one thing I didn't realize at that point yet. Another thing is that sometimes trades don't work out. So yes, I took the risk here, and unfortunately it didn't work out for me. It reached all the way to the stop loss, and I had put for myself like this loss limit. Okay, I'm going to lose a maximum of 50% on this trade. And well, that's what happened. I lost 50%. So that was, quite the setback here. But I think it's worth it. I could have, made a lot of money on this. So it's okay that something like this happened. I also really wanted to try to hold a bit longer because I've been selling at 10 to 20% profit targets. And everybody was very much into holding longer and making a lot of more money. That's what Twitter usually presents to you. When you scroll to Twitter, you only see the big wins, people that hold for a long time. So I felt like I should do that. This is one of the best setups that I have seen in quite a while. Let's just try it out. And it didn't work out. So also a big lesson on the fact that you shouldn't just hold any token for as long as you can. Although people do make the most money with holding for such long periods, the most people, I think, that hold for such a long time actually lose all of their money or round trip everything. But those are the stories that you usually not see on Twitter. You only see the ones that are successful. And I think that's going to be probably less than 1%, maybe even. So it doesn't work out for me. What worked for me this entire challenge was just to take profit at easy targets so I could consistently build my trading account. And that's also what I did moving forward from this loss. I just tried to make small gains, small steps. And after this, I basically recovered very quickly. So in like a span of, I think like a week, I was back again at this level. So that was a very big step, because usually, or before that, it took me, I think, a month to make that same progress. So I was just really open-minded. I wasn't like, oh man, I lost 50%, fuck it all, you know, depression. No, I was more like, I have a working strategy. It works well. What I did here was just a risk. It didn't work out. That's it. But I was, you know, pumped more than ever. And I got back to all-time high in like a week. So that's really insane. And from there, it went quite well until I got to like the 90% mark. I think in a month later, I was at the 90% mark already. So just skyrocketed, just following the same exact process, just buying these very good demand zones on a little bit higher time frame. So at that point, I also switched to the 4-hour. So only wanted to trade demand zones on the 4-hour, because of course I also noticed that the higher time frame you go, the bigger the swings are, the more money you can put in, and the more reliable the setups are. The win rate can typically increase with like 10 or 20%, moving from a 50-minute to a 4-hour or daily time frame. And of course, you know, once you go over the $100,000 mark, it's becoming difficult to manage your position, because you can't buy a token with 100% with 100k liquidity, because you will really impact the price a lot. For example, like if I go to JUP and let's say I want to invest 600 SOL because I need to risk 50 or 60 SOL, I would need to put in around this number. And now Popcat is like one of the better meme tokens, because they have a very big liquidity pool. It's 8.4 million, so that's insane. But most tokens, you know, for example, something like Billy, which is also actually like a very good token with a lot of liquidity, maybe like this, something like this. This one only has 448k liquidity. And the problem is that once I would like to take a position of maybe like 300 SOL for something like this, the price impact would be 14%. So if I would take this position, I would lose 14% instantly. And usually that's also my profit target, or 20%. So just this isn't gonna work. So I would have to divide basically my entries in smaller sizes. And it also counts for the exits. And that really makes it very tough trading, because you're gonna probably miss the perfect exit all the time. Even though you know you have to exit there, you know this is my target, it's gonna go down here, I know I can't actually exit, and that's very frustrating. So I would have to, you know, slowly try to sell and hope to get most of it out before it goes down again. And oftentimes you would be selling this entire down move and basically lose money because you can't sell. You also lose money because every time you buy, you will buy price up quite a bit. So that's really frustrating and difficult, but it's manageable. And in the end, I found that as long as my total position size is not bigger than 5% of the total liquidity pool, then I would be able to enter most of it at the peaks. And that's only using a 4-hour or daily time frame demand zone. So at the end, I also implemented that rule, the 5% rule, and that also helped me a lot. So a lot of things that I learned here during this challenge, and especially also related to position sizing, is I think very interesting. You know, and when you get to these very high position sizes, it's also very interesting, because if you are like buying all these lows here and putting a lot of money at these levels, then people are gonna observe that, and you could actually cause price to turn again. If you're absorbing all these sells, you're actually holding price back and moving it back up. So that's also like one of the interesting things. So let's see. Yeah, so then the next thing was, it was very difficult to go from like 90% to 100%. You know, somehow every time I came very close, I made some more mistakes and got back down again. At some point, I think I even got back to 770 again. And this was mainly because Sol actually dumped, and I was very frightened that I was going to lose a lot, because I think at some point I had $140,000 and I didn't want to lose that. I had a lot of Sol, and I know that, okay, of course it's important to reach the 1,000 Sol, but it's also important in the end to have a lot of dollars in the end of the bull run. And, you know, I didn't want to have 1,000 Sol and then Sol, you know, going back to $70. You know, that would really suck. So that kind of frightened me, and I sold my Sol somewhere, and then I had to buy back when it ripped back up again, and then I ended up reducing my SOL holdings with quite some bit. So then I had to, of course, just continue trading and work a lot on not being fixated on that target and just continue to get high quality setups. And after a month, then I finally break through that obstacle, and I actually managed to reach the goal finally. So this really proves to me that the strategy that I'm using is insanely good. It works well. If I do the same thing over and over again, it's going to really skyrocket my results. And I'm really happy that I found this strategy and that I was able to optimize it. And also, of course, with my own performance, I'm really happy that I just stick to the strategy, that I followed everything to the tick, that I very carefully observed the results and improved it to make it a very super sound strategy. So now you may be asking like, okay, so what's next for you? And to be honest, I have no idea yet. I do have some things on the planning, maybe start another challenge just to keep myself busy, keep myself motivated. So one of the ideas that I had was to do it all over again, but then faster, or to do it all over again and then maybe put some sort of difficulty in it, so that a certain rule to make it more difficult for me, like a handicap. That would also be nice, as my goal in life basically is to become the best trader. It would be good to make it even more difficult for myself, just for the practice basically. But on the other hand, I'm also trying to make it myself. So handicapping myself might lead to worse results. And I do want to get, the most out of this. So maybe it's better to go for, the 1,000 to 2,000 SOL or 1,000 to 10,000 SOL challenge, or just do it again, the same that I did before. But what I also am very interested in is trying to help other people to also get the same results that I have. So I did make a course. I made a video series basically. Let me show you on this framework that I built. I call it the Zone of Demand framework. And I really tried to basically summarize like all the things that I learned into these videos to make you capable of also highlighting these zones and everything that I learned, like when you should enter and how I use stop losses and targets, just to make sure that you're gonna be able to trade exactly like I did. So that's something that I wanted to do also. And I do charge money for this. So basically it's $100 or it's like half a SOL, something like that, to get in the community. And then you also get access to this framework. And I'm also helping everyone here. People are sharing their trades basically. And then I'm giving them feedback on the trades, try to get them to also complete the challenge. So that's something that I'm also really interested in. Can I also now transfer my knowledge and skills on other people? So it's really nice to see people working hard and to see them getting results as well. So that would also be a goal that I am after. Just try to get someone else to, first make maybe 100 SOL and then 1,000 SOL. Yeah, and then let's see how that's going. So that concludes this update. I'm super stoked to have made such a big achievement in terms of, trading. Now, of course, it's not necessarily a very insane dollar amount, but being able to trade 1 SOL into 1,000 SOL, I mean, it's crazy. I think it's really crazy, and I really hope that I can get a lot more out of this during this bull run and really set myself up for life. All right, that's it for this video. I hope you learned something valuable. And if you are interested in also joining the community and trying to complete such a challenge for yourself, would be happy to introduce you. So that's it, and I'll see you in the next one.